Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
Very, very smart and very under the radar. His father said the minute that you get a public profile is the minute you start to fall. He meets Guy Dolay or Guy Dolay at a dinner party and suggests that it would be exciting for Excelor, the European stronghold of steel production, to merge with his company. And the French classist, racist CEO says, yes, but 80% of mergers fail due to cultural differences.
Correct.
And so our anti-hero and our underdog Mittal uses the platform of a public bid, display that presents the bid to purchase.
Hostile takeover at this point. He has a conversation at this dinner, trying to be collaborative, saying, hey, you're the number 2 producer, I just grew to the number 1, we just talked about a merger. This guy makes some pretty off-the-wall comments and gets aggressive about the cultural differences. Mittal then goes to making public statements.
So the French guy says about the racist stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
French guy says
that happens all the time. All the time.
At which point the insults got to the point where the French company would rather accept a hastily put together Russian deal.
They must have been desperate.
Yeah, they'd rather take that deal because he was a pure European. And so we've got the scene is set for a hostile takeover, and Mittal is more leveraged. We looked at it. We were wondering if he was one of your QLA bots because he was highly leveraged. Ran an efficient shop. This is in India and in the emerging markets. He keeps more of the profits. He has a lot, I think, 5 times more debt than the conservative Europeans, and is now going after 10% of the global market. And that almost sounded just like what you say, Will. The Northeast healthcare is worth 15 billion. If we can get 1% of that over the next 5 years, that's our goal. It sounds like Mittal wanted 10% of the global market, and that's exactly what he did. And that's what brought him to the point of being the 3rd richest man in the world. Person that we didn't know about.
This, to me, I kind of read this as a modern Carnegie story. It's happened in 2005, 2006 when the deal was closed. But Mittal grew up through acquisitions, which a QLA style. The only difference is, he would buy things during a recession at low prices, but he seemed to turn them around. He would buy them when they were unprofitable and then turn them to be profitable. He got into the business at the age of 21. And through family-owned business and bidding for other contracts, by the time he was 55, in 2005, when he finished his last acquisition before this whole thing happened, he grew into the number 1 steel manufacturer, steel producer in the world.
Guy, do you want to just run through a couple of numbers from Mr. Peña, just so we get an idea of the prices and values of each company?
On the other page.
It's also interesting that Mittal, at one point, through another company, paid himself a £1 billion dividend.
That's how you do it?
Yeah.
As CEO?
Yeah.
As CEO, Mr. Peña was the one who broke the last ceiling years before.
So we're wondering if Mittal is one of your mentees, because it's basically pure QLA as far as we can see. But in terms of the businesses, actually, Arcelor was the revenue was much higher, but didn't produce as much steel, and was less efficient in terms of the margins. Obviously, the markets were quite interested, could see the future potential in Mittal steel because the PE ratio was higher. So, from Mittal's perspective, it makes absolute sense. It's the only way. I mean, when you're already the largest producer of steel in the world, how are you gonna go incrementally, or you're gonna go for exponential growth? And the only way to do that was to buy the number 2.
And the number 2, just to add to that, is Arcelor. They grew into the number 2 position through 3 mergers, just like about 3 years prior. So it's pretty aggressive. Number 1, number 2 getting.
Well, and the other deal, the Indian guy, although he didn't come here, he read my book. So this guy, I don't know him, but a lot of guys, when we used to sell the book, a lot of guys went to the website, and for example, the Qatar guys in Qatar were at the Beverly Bush Hotel a year or two ago, and the head of security came up to me in the gym and said, "Mr. Peña, we know you, blah, blah, blah. We play your old cassettes and the new stuff in the Qatar family uses it as a training." They stopped trying to bleep out fuck and shit. So I mean, because it kind of ruins the rhythm. But and so there's a lot of people that use this, and that I've never met in person. Once in a while, I get a thank you note. I just made $9 billion and blah, blah, blah. But the metallic guys, for sure. I don't know about these guys, but you'll see a lot. You'll see a lot of people that fall back to the same methodology that Mr. Carnegie used 100 years prior to this, because it works. As Margot Klein, God love her, the French cunt, said, the funny thing about it is it works. I don't know what's so fucking funny about it, but funny thing is it works, and it does work. It just works. And again, you guys can be doing this for 25 years, and you won't run, other than other guys that have come through here, or the occasional guy that gets it from the book or on my website, you won't run into hardly anybody, because they're influenced by conventional wisdom. Who's writing the equity check? 99%. Who's writing the equity check? And the investment banks are the same way. And it's just, I don't know if it's criminal, but it's good for us. It's good for us. As Sally would say, they had stopped worrying about it 15, 20 years ago, because they're just not, it should have happened by now, but it hasn't. Yeah, so he made very well. I've gotten it, and a lot of the better successful deals are based on the QLA model. A lot of deals that falter, it's because they get driven up because of fees, and that's the only reason they get done. In this particular juncture, the only fees would be advisory fees. And more than 80%, not just 80% of the deals fail because of cultural differences. More than 90%. And when you see an acquisition and then 6 to 36 months later, they're hiving off assets. They're selling all kinds of assets off. What they're doing is they're selling off divisions where the cultural battles are the worst. And there's no way to assimilate them in, and they bring in these human resource experts and all these assholes, and to sit down and have focus groups. Siemens love focus groups. Anyway, what you can see with your own eye in 5 minutes, it takes a 6-month focus group, but it does work, and that's.
In terms of the Russian interest there, that made a token bid, Savastal, I believe the name is. Last night you mentioned something about the split up the oligarchy,
Correct.
And who were the major players in that room?
Well, there used to be 8, and now I think it's 14 or 15, because those 8 guys have had sons. But originally there was arguably 6 to 8 when Putin's henchmen, so to speak, like Hitler's henchmen. And they split up the assets. I wasn't in the room, but they split up the assets, and they said, okay, and they went by birthright. You were born in Ukraine, so your birthright is this. You were born in Moscow. Your birthright is this. You were born in near the Black Sea, and that's originally how it got split up. But then they found out that certain of the places had infinitely more money and assets than others. So then after 2 or 3 years, some smart ass who had a son at Harvard or something, or Stanford. Well, fuck, I mean, Dad, we got billions, but, Harry over here got 46 billion because he's got all the mining. And so then they had some reallocation. But it was originally where Putin's buddies came from. And then those guys had kids. And nothing worse than a young Stanford MBA to come and tell his dad he fucked up. Now, everybody was rich and happy. No conflict whatsoever. Until they started analyzing it, and the second generation of them started arguing. And the wives.
That was Russian.
They got a 300-foot yacht, and ours is only 240 feet, and that caused a big fucking riff. And then the girlfriends of the guys, because all these guys have 3 to 5 mistresses, all of them, okay? And then her house is 82 rooms, and my house is only 61 rooms. And so then, and some of the guys disappeared, as it can happen in Russia. It just, but now it's pretty calmed down. Last 10 or 15 years, it's pretty calmed down. But like they catch Putin poisoning people, but I mean, it happens all the time. Except if it happens in Russia, it never gets out. Now, you notice when they have kidnappings in Russia and the stormtroopers come in, everybody gets killed. The people that were kidnapped get killed, and because there's no witnesses, as my dad taught. Okay, what's a clean shoot? No witnesses. Oh, okay, and by some miracle, miraculously, everybody dies in those when they save everybody. But you have to be insane to kidnap somebody in Russia. I mean, fuck, because you're going to wind up dead.
Have you had young mentees that have gone into these sort of prime industries, for example, mining, graphite, or cobalt?
Not cobalt, but mining, yes. I'm supposed to be a mining expert, which I'm not, but whenever you make a lot of money and stuff, they think you're an expert. And even now, they believe me less that I don't know anything about a lot of these industries. But of all the things that I'm considered to be an expert, mining is the one I know the least about, even today. But I know it's all about reserves, and the only reserves that are worth anything are proved producing reserves. Proved reserves that aren't producing is a fig Newton of somebody's imagination, some fucking geologist, or it's producing, and the depth, the quality of the reserves are measured in depths, and in mining, it's how many feet of coal do you have. And less how long is the vein, the gold vein,
right?
We were the 3rd or 4th largest independent coal producer in the United States. We had 17 coal mines, and it's a great business. It's fine. Okay, we're gonna get back into it. It shits money. It shits money. Okay, so but those are 2 good cases. Yeah,
this was interesting too, because this was a really big international consolidation, to the point that not only did it piss off people between the cultures, different governments had to get involved.
Yeah.
The UK government actually stepped in to try to help, navigate some of the waters and make the deal more effective for the company.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they send some guy from the government here in the UK, with rare exception, they're all pussies. I mean, they're not going to convince or let alone force anybody to do anything, because they want to be liked. And Neville Chamberlain, during when he acquiesced and capitulated to Hitler, is a classic example of somebody wanting to be liked rather than be effective. So, okay, guys, we'll see you inside.